I got it. Philip gave me. All right. Okay. Are we live? Okay. So welcome to the Recreation Committee on the Monday, November 8th. All members are present, as well as our Recreation Director, City Administrator, and staff. Let's see. Call the meeting to order. We'll acknowledge that the public has been duly notified of the meeting in accordance with the Freedom of Information Act. And do I hear a motion for approval of previous meetings minutes from October 4th?
So moved. Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Moving on to citizens' comments. We do have a citizen, I believe, who's here to speak to us. If you want to go to the podium, and that way you'll be recorded better. So thank you for being here.
All right. Hey, everybody. Thanks for having me. My name is Phil Antman. I live at 1338 Ronald Lane on James Island. I'm the owner of Salt Marsh Surf, which is a surf instruction business out here on Isle of Palms. We started last year, and it's been going really well so far. I'm just here to comment on the surf instruction pilot program that we started. I think it's been great to get some surf lessons started out here on the Isle of Palms, and I've seen you guys working through a lot of the specifics on it. Been following up with the minutes from the previous meetings and stuff like that. And I think we're making some headway. I think there's just a few things that could be improved. Specifically, the time limit per day of 2 hours seems to be really restrictive on just allowing us to be able to do our business out there. And so far, to my knowledge, there's just been 3 businesses that have been approved, me and 2 other businesses. And those guys haven't really been able to make the trip over here as much to Isle of Palms because it's only available, to teach 2 hours a day. So they're working mostly on Folly, and I've been over here on Isle of Palms, but 2 hours a day just doesn't seem like enough for us to really make a viable business. And there's a lot of demand that we're having to turn away because we're only allowed to teach 2 hours a day. And so I'm just wondering what the reasoning is, why we're only allowed to teach 2 hours a day, if there's a legitimate reason behind that, or if it was just kind of, like an idea like, hey, let's try 2 hours, see if that works. But I think it could work with more hours per day. I don't think it's going to impact drastically anyone's experience on the beach because we're trying to, maintain a great rapport with the locals and the citizens that are out there on the day-to-day basis and let everyone enjoy the beach equally. But we just want to be able to, teach all day. If people want a lesson in the afternoon and someone wants a lesson in the morning, we want to be able to give more than 1 lesson per day, because basically 2 hours is only going to allow us to do mostly 1 lesson per day. So if we could just increase it, my comment is just, hey, let's consider increasing it beyond 2 hours. If it's 3, 4, 5, or 8 hours a day, or just say, hey, anytime you want to go out there and teach a lesson, as long as it's not dark, go ahead. That would be good too. I think if you leave it to our discretion, being professional surf instructors, we'll get it done and make sure it's organized. And if it gets out of control, we have any complaints, we can go back to the drawing board on it. But it would be great to allow us a little more freedom on how long we can teach per day. If you have any other questions about, any of the other specifics on the program, I feel like, limiting the number of businesses overall would be smart in the future. Probably 5 providers would probably be a good maximum number. And then as far as the overall class size we talked about, y'all were saying maybe allowing groups of up to 12. And I was saying that could still be a big group, maybe 8 would be a good number. But one of the ideas I had was regulating times when we're allowed to teach big groups. So say you can, teach big groups in the morning from 9 to 12. And then after 12 o'clock, if you have a pair or maybe up to 4 people, that's max. But we don't want any more big groups or, large gatherings on the beach all day long. You don't want to have large gatherings of people all day. So those are basically my comments right there. Just allow us to teach longer per day would be great.
Super. Thank you. And actually, maybe we'll move that item up on the agenda. I think would be a good idea so that you can stay and not have to necessarily listen to the rest. And in committee, we tend to be a little more informal. So there may be some questions that we might want to ask you. So if you want to go ahead and take a seat, and if I could make a motion that we move up item A under new business. Do I hear a second for that?
Second, yeah.
Good. Okay, great. So we had talked about this at our last meeting, and then we've gone ahead and approved the first reading of the ordinance at full council without discussion, really. But after I talked with Mr. Antman, I already had in mind that maybe we should do some tweaking, or I would recommend that we do some tweaking and go to at least 4 hours of time to allow for per instructor or company outfit. I'm not sure what you would say. Allow up to 4 hours of instruction a day. And to offset that, we originally had 2, and we had restriction of a limit of 4 students, I believe. Mm-hmm. So I also think there's some wisdom in offsetting the time increase and going to groups of 8, which I think would mitigate the possibility of, having just way too many kids getting instruction or students getting instruction at the same time, and really provide for a better quality experience for the students who are out there as well, instead of it getting too crowded out there at one time. And for the people that are concerned about the feeling of commercialization on the beach, that maybe spreads things out more, in terms of the numbers. So we're not having 12 kids at a time. We're having 8, and then maybe 8 2 hours after that, but it's not clumping them together as much. So, is there any discussion, or do I need to make a motion to adjust the language?
Well, yes, but I wanted to share with you all, I received an email from a resident along 9th Avenue, and I reported to you all that I had reached out to some folks that from the community to see whether they had any suggestions or any concerns. And at the time of the last meeting, I hadn't received anything. So I have now. I think overall there was they were very happy with the way that it operated. I think it was within the bounds of the restrictions. There were some comments about how sometimes groups look larger than the original 4 that the city had approved. But it could have been just, a matter of maybe turnover between different groups. Mm-hmm. I think one recommendation that was made was for the ordinance to include something about parking, making sure that they use beach parking rather than residential passes. According to them, they saw folks coming to visit using residential passes that had been provided. And based on the beach parking ordinance, the residential passes, 1-day passes, are meant to be used by residents or visitors along the same block where they live, where the pass is issued. And I guess folks were using those passes to park in the residential area.
Somebody's got a lot of time on their hands.
We don't know if those people were going to go to surfing instruction or what, but that was one comment that was made. Loading and unloading guidelines. I think that there were concerns about unloading of equipment being done in the residential area, and suggestions that it would be done closer to the beach.
Desiree, did you just receive those like today, or?
No, I received them late October. I forgot to share them with you all, and I have a copy of it here. I can share it with you all.
Please.
Yeah, we can do that. I'm sorry. Oh, it is on that. I'll share them with you in terms of any recommendations that I think would be necessary to include in the ordinance. I don't think that there would be. We try to keep the ordinance pretty, not too cumbersome, I guess, if you will. Some of these things are just going to be enforcement. I think that there were concerns about a larger group based on parking availability and just I guess one of the intents from the very beginning was to keep groups small enough to not, to be unnoticeable as a business activity. But I think that y'all have already addressed that by, a group of 8. I'm going to pass this around so y'all can see it. And I can share it with you all as well.
I mean, I think that those are good conversations to have, even though I don't think they necessarily affect what we're doing with the ordinance. But I think that's part of this evaluation time that I think we should continue to have at least for another year, possibly more, as we work through how things are going.
And I also wanted to point out that the ordinance, as it's written right now that you all approved for first reading, it has in yellow highlighted the sections that were added. One that we included as a recommendation from the city attorney was having the instructor providers execute an indemnification agreement to be submitted as part of the application. That was something that we did not have, and we want to memorialize that this time around. Part of the ordinance.
And the current draft still has 2 hours in it, right? So
that is correct. The current draft has limiting groups of 4 with a maximum of 12, so that you keep the 4-to-1 ratio, and that surf instruction shall not exceed more than 2 hours per day per provider.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
If you wanted to increase, if you're thinking of increasing the hours, I might recommend that you say maximum of 2 hours per session with a maximum of X number of hours per day.
Yes, I think that's a great suggestion. Because I don't think we want to avoid the atmosphere where kids are there for 4 hours. And obviously they're not going to be surfing that whole time. So that would kind of suggest that you're doing other activities on the beach with them, which is something we're trying to avoid. We want, for the most part, people to be in the water getting good instruction and not so much having it be the kind of camp where parents are trying to manage their day by having kids in it. Although if it works for them, that's fine. But we'd rather not extend the time that that one group is out there, I think, if there's agreement on that. So we did not, what exactly the indemnification agreement? Can you expand on that a little bit, what that is?
It protects the city and indemnifies the city. If anybody has an accident over there, the city is not responsible for that. So,
and we did not have anything like that before? We
had a statement on the application hereby indemnifying the city. This would make it a full indemnification document. We currently do it as part of when we provide or we give approval for city-sponsored event to film on the beach or film on public property. We have that document, so it's not nothing unusual that we haven't used before. This would include that as part of the application.
Just makes it more official. It's something we were doing to some degree already.
Correct. And we kept here that permission shall be granted for 1 year, which would may be renewed, so that everybody would have to come back to the city every year to apply, and it's still up to city council to approve the vendor and how many vendors ultimately are allowed to conduct the activity.
And we've addressed, there's not language that would stop surfing instruction next October, so we fixed that piece.
No, it's year round. It would allow year-round surfing instruction on the beach.
So how does the process work for reapplying?
Sir, it would be up to the chair.
Yes. If your question is how would it affect applications or
to reapply? If you say it lasts 1 year, we have to reapply every year. Then how does that process work to reapply?
It would have to it would expire 12 months after you receive your first application, and then you would have to come to the city again in and submit the paperwork, certifications, the identification document, and it would go before city council again for approval.
And so if I'm a surfing instructor, I would do that towards the end of the calendar year, go ahead and put in my application. So there would be no gap.
Yeah,
right.
I think procedurally it would be more efficient if the city had a date, maybe at the beginning of the year or end of the year, that all the applications are submitted at the same time, and then council considers them all at the same time. This year, because it was the first year, we received them sporadically, and they would be presented to council whenever they were provided to us. But if we have a date where people need to submit their applications, and then you all consider all of them and just make approve at the same time, one time, rather than.
At this point, that would probably make more sense. I mean, last year was our first year, and I think word was getting out, and so I think that would be acceptable. Any thoughts, comments?
No, I agree. And I think, Philip, you're getting ready to say something.
No, go ahead.
I think we're probably on the same page. Honestly, I can feel it. I would, instead of trying to set up a whole new date and everything, I would coincide it with our business license dates and keep all that the same. I mean, because obviously you still have to get a business license. Coincide all those dates at the same time, so we're not trying to figure out what and when everybody has to file.
It's good.
So maybe
that's
the
what I would
first
recommend.
year, rather than 12 months, the first year could be 18 months, so that we can get into that schedule. Because it would be, we can just make sure that it falls within that. But then the 2022 business license will be in June. So either we grant a 6-month license, or we can just do an 18-month and then move on from that. So that could be.
I'd just recommend doing the 18-month and get it going.
Yeah.
So the expectation would be for this upcoming year that the instructors would need to go ahead and apply before the start of the year and then they would have from January 2022 to
June or May of 2023, and at that time, then we can do the 12-year process.
Okay.
Coincide with business license.
That seems. I mean, I think the word should be out that we're doing surfing instruction, so anybody who is interested should have it on their radar, and know that we're folding over into a new year. So,
does that mean I would have to reapply in January?
Or December.
Or now. You can apply now.
Right.
And it would be valid until the spring of 2023, basically.
Yeah, that's funny because right now everything's valid. So
the ordinance that was approved this year expired surfing October 31st.
But then I understand that they just said you guys can go ahead and keep doing it.
I thought that the window was, I mean, with the approval of the first ordinance, I thought we were allowing people to go ahead and continue.
Well, I don't think the police department is not enforcing, but the pending ordinance doctrine really applies to zoning.
Oh, okay.
Zoning ordinances. So until it's ratified, it's really not yet, valid.
Okay.
So hopefully
So
in a week and a half, it would be ratified, hopefully by council.
We'll have our full council meeting early. So when we have second reading of our ordinance, then it will become official. And so, but are we, I guess technically, as far as the writing of it, I think we're all probably fine with surfing instruction continuing through the end of this year, even if you don't have a permit for next year or approval for next.
If that would apply to anybody providing surfing instruction. So those only 3 have been approved by city council, and those approvals expired October 31st.
Can we have a mechanism so people can go ahead and apply?
It's already online.
Okay. So that it could be approved, so they could technically be able to provide surfing instruction for the rest of the year, for the calendar year.
It would be difficult because the ordinance is going to change. So right now, if an application comes in, the application comes in based on the current guidelines in the ordinance, which were the ones from this summer. My recommendation, I mean, it's just a week and a half before council ratifies this ordinance. Once it's ratified, I think at that point the city can start receiving applications.
Okay.
Because right now, if not, the city would be opening up the door to people who have not been approved by council, or we have not been able to check and verify their certifications. They don't have an indemnification agreement with the city. Something would happen. The city would be opening itself for that. So I think that the safest thing to do is just to wait until this is ratified and then consider applications based on these new regulations.
Okay. And so is there they would still need our approval though on an individual basis? So it would restrict them from providing surf instruction until they receive that approval. Could that possibly happen at our December meeting? If there are some that go ahead and apply. So, I mean, I'm not sure how much surfing instruction goes on in December, but
it's kind of died out already, but the October 1st deadline really kind of killed us in the water because, you know, we had to wait until the next meeting, which I thought my previous approval was valid currently because at the last meeting you said, all right, let's do away with this October thing and allow it to continue on for the rest of the year. So I assumed that applied to the people who've been previously approved because we just changed it and now we're allowed to keep going. So I assume me and the other two providers were legal to keep providing surf instruction to the end of the year. But I had to wait until that last meeting, and so the water got cold between October and then you know November, basically. So just now, when y'all have that last rec meeting at the end of October, and so or the last town council meeting. So really, it's already slowed down a lot. There's not going to be a lot of surf instruction between now and the end of the year. But I just want to know if I have to reapply in January, and why wouldn't my previous approval be valid? I guess I understand now because it ended in October, and even though you changed sort of.
And I think part of it is just making sure that we continue to have, you know, the certification and everything that you are required through the ordinance. You know, not just you, but every instructor.
Well, and also I think the first year being a pilot year, the city wanted to have a time where things would stop and you all could reevaluate whether we wanted to continue to do it or change it. So that's what the past 2 months, I guess, have been done.
All right. Well, I think we could go ahead and move forward. I'll make a motion, or unless anybody else, I'll just go ahead and make a motion that we adjust the ordinance for second reading so that it allows for an increase in the number of students that are able to receive surf instruction at one time to 8 per out. Well, yes, you're shaking your head.
In my opinion, 8 is a lot for one instructor.
No, but with the number
keeping the 4 to 1
groups,
ratio,
keeping that was my next, was keeping the 4 to 1 ratio, but allowing a maximum of 8 in a group.
And right now it's written as 12.
Yeah,
so
which is, and it was originally 4. We were going to go up to 12, but I think we walked that back to 8.
Okay.
But with the understanding that we have, is that
it's 12.
I mean, the way it's written,
well,
Madam Chair, it's a maximum of 12 in here with 3 instructors.
To keep the ratio.
Right.
So it can be up to 12.
But what we're saying is we want to
reduce it down to 8.
To 8.
Okay.
Yes. But and then at the same time changing so that we can allow up to 4 hours of instruction.
And that would be with 2 instructors?
Yes. If you had the group of 8, it would be with 2 instructors. So
let me just clarify. We're getting all confused.
Yeah, okay.
So the item 4 under subsection C would read: serve instruction shall be limited to groups of 4 or fewer students and at least one instructor, with a maximum of 8 students and 2 instructors per day per provider.
Yes, exactly.
And then Item 5 will say surf instruction shall not exceed more than 4 hours per day per provider, with sessions not exceeding 2 hours each or something.
Although I don't think we want, on item 4, we don't want to limit the number of instructors. And so I would like that. I mean, we would, if we had that, a group of 12 or a group of 8, we would want at least, you know, the 4-to-1 ratio. But you would also wouldn't want to exclude the possibility that somebody might have an additional instructor in the mix so that you have an even smaller ratio. So if that can be tweaked.
I don't think we need, and I think you established the maximum, you know, the minimum of what you need. If I think that, I think the way that it is, it's fine. I mean, if they want to have more instructors, as long as the groups don't exceed 8 per of students, I think that's what we care for.
Well, the wording though says with a maximum of 12 students and 3 instructors. I think that could be read to think that you can't have more than 3 instructors, the way I read the sentence. Does that make sense?
At least then. At least.
Yeah, it's just.
Yeah.
Can you just say 4-to-1 instructor-student ratio, and not get into like, you know, obviously if you just say 4-to-1 student to instructor ratio, we know what that means. And then you can say max group size, 8 students.
That's what we have.
Yeah.
That's what it says.
That's what it says.
Yeah.
But you don't have to say max group size, 8 students and 2 instructors. Just take that last little bit off. Max group size, 8 people.
Just keep the ratio.
Yeah,
4-to-1
with 8.
ratio.
With a 4 to, I think we go with the ratio instead of being specific about the number of instructors. I mean, like.
That's what it says now, Madam
Yeah.
Chair.
Yes.
It says.
I don't think we need to, this was
Right.
written by the city attorney.
Okay, I'm sorry.
I think if we change the maximum of 8 students and 3 instructors, because the first sentence already says that your groups shall be of 4 or fewer and at least 1 instructor. So you're already opening up the door there, that you can have 2 instructors for a group of 4.
Okay. All right. If you all feel comfortable, I read it a little bit differently. I just want to make sure it's straight, but that's fine. And okay, so back to the motion. I'm sorry, we went all around the world there. Just to make the motion is to make sure we continue to have a 4-to-1, at least a 4-to-1 or ratio. Or I'm not sure that I think we all know what we mean. We want at least.
It says at least 1 instructor.
Okay.
I mean, you're approving it as written, essentially.
Right.
Yeah.
But
Except item 5.
Adjusting to 8
Yeah.
for the maximum number of students and adjusting to 4
Yeah.
for the maximum number of hours per day per provider.
Do you want to specify that each session shall not exceed 2 hours so that you don't have 1 session of 4 hours?
Yes, and add that as well.
Okay.
I think that should cover it.
That's going to be hard to enforce.
I was gonna say,
That's
Philip,
not
I was just gonna say that. How do you enforce it now? I mean, you got so many regulations in there. You have to pull out a tabulation sheet just to figure out which one
Well,
you're doing.
I would say that if you have somebody who's advertising a 4-day camp for your kids, that's a clear sign that they're not following.
I mean, but I don't, what is that we're trying to avoid with allowing, if there is a group of 8 that wants to have instruction for 4 hours, rather than having 8 people for 4 hours or 8 in the morning and 8 in, I just don't know what we're trying to solve.
Exactly what I mentioned before, which is when you start to have somebody who's receiving surf instruction for 8 hours, they're honestly not going to be in the water for 4 hours. They can't, I would not think that those students are going to be continuously out in the water for 4 hours. Then I think you lend to more of a camp situation where kids are not just doing surf instruction. They're having snacks and they're doing things on the beach that lend more to maybe a commercial feel. But I'm welcome to thoughts from.
I don't see that. I mean, I think the fair market's going to adjust who's getting surf instruction and who's not getting surf instruction. That's
more around the commercialization feel, I think, for.
Right. I mean, we're in the weeds in this thing right now, because I think it's written well, the way the ordinance is. And I still think it's still over restricted, really. I mean, what if you get somebody doing advanced classes, you know, and you have somebody who's worked their way up, and, you know, obviously now you have folks who can surf or surf well and want to advance to do more technical stuff. Now you're still paying somebody else to come back out to have extra instructors there just because you have folks that can surf well already. So, and I guess maybe when we get down the road on that, we'll have to, you know, and that's not gonna be my problem, but somebody else, we'll have to address this maybe next year again. Like I said, it's a pilot program, but I'd say we move forward on what we have here and put this thing to bed.
If there's not a concern about the commercialization, I mean, we can just keep it simple and go to 4 hours and not specify the number of sessions that would be.
I think keeping it 4 hours you're giving the provider the flexibility to say, okay, we want to split the 4 hours between 2 sessions of 2 hours, or I want to have a group that maybe wants 3 hours because they're more advanced, and then a session for 1 hour. You give them the flexibility.
All right.
In terms of the number of people, it's the same.
It's the same, true.
Whether they're the same or different.
Well, I guess you could argue too, it would, in a way, for parking and that kind of thing, maybe it's better to have 8 people stay out for 4 hours and not have a changeover of groups of people. So, so you could argue that both ways, probably, in terms of the impact on parking and
Second,
that kind of thing. All right.
Just for the record, let us just, I'll repeat it.
Let's review.
There's only, I'm just asking in advance, you got lots of yellow on there? Are we only changing these 2 things?
Yes.
Okay, so.
So you're changing that the maximum of students per day per provider goes from 12 to 8. And then the number of hours goes from 2 to 4. And then we'll include, I think procedurally, we'll just do the time frame for the applications. I don't think we need to include any.
Okay. All right. Perfect. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Thank you. And thank you for being here. We appreciate it. And good luck at the new year.
All right, thank you guys.
Thank you.
Thanks for your time. Appreciate it.
If you have any further questions, you can follow up with Desiree about the application piece of it. So, all right. Thanks, y'all. Through that. Let's go back up to old business and well, let's go back to our departmental report with
Thank you.
Director Page.
Thought you were going to skip me there for a minute. There isn't a lot new at the Recreation Center. We've been extremely busy, as you all know. Our youth soccer's ending. We're registering for basketball now. Practices will be starting soon. We'll start those games in January. We do have some good acting camps going on that will do a performance at the end of it. Jean Schubert is our instructor with that, and she does these things year round and does a really good job. All of our exercise classes are going great. Our tennis lessons are going good. Our pickleball lessons are going good. Our teenagers are so excited to be out and about. We had a great meeting in October, and then we had one last Wednesday and had a good turnout. And I'd like to thank the police department. They show up every time and help us with that, which is so helpful to us because we are a little bit short staffed. So they've helped us out a lot with that, and we really appreciate their efforts. I know it's on the agenda, but it's also in our report. Rec Track, we had a Zoom meeting on Friday with Vermont Systems. They're migrating over today. So our registration is going to be down for a little while, but we've got this. The actual online registration is going to be a little while. We had to purchase some hardware to scan the cards. We have to make sure that it talks to our bank, to BSNA, and this sort of stuff. But we really will not have any online registration going on until the first of the year anyway. But hopefully we'll have this up and going in a couple of weeks. So by the end of today, we should have our new program. And we're all watching videos because it's quite different than what we're used to doing. So there's going to be a learning curve for all of us. Vermont's going to work with us on our templates for registration for whatever activity it is to make sure that we're asking all the questions that we need to ask to capture that information in our RecTrack system. And there's just some logistics, but I think it's going to be good. So it's just, we're getting there.
Can you review for the user how this makes the experience better or different?
Well, the only advantage that it's going to be for the user is that they're going to be able to register online. A lot of our events, they've been able to register online now, but the back end part of it for my staff has been complicated and time consuming. This will free up some of that time because by going through the RecTrack, it will talk directly to RecTrack. So we won't have to enter every one of those into RecTrack as we were having to do. And BSNA, they're all going to talk. So, which they have not been doing. And it's quite challenging for our staff. Will
it give the person who's signing up a little more instant feedback? For example, since the staff doesn't have to do the back end, right. If you have a maximum number of students that can be in a class, will it be more readily apparent to someone who's looking online that class is full and for example?
Yes, it will. Just like every other system, if it's full, it's full. We're going to have it set up so that you can do a waiting list. It will also capture zip codes, so we'll know whether you're an island resident or not an island resident. The one thing that we are going to continue to do now is require people that do not have a household to come in and set up a household.
Okay.
Because you have to have a number before you can register, because we need that proof of residency. And unfortunately, we have people that do prevaricate about where they live. So we have to verify sometimes.
I think Mount Pleasant does it that way. Do they not?
They do. They do.
So that's similar.
They have to physically go into the facility to establish a household. But once you've established a household, you can do it online. And we're going to do it the same way.
But people who are already in the system are good. They're not going to have to come in person. Any questions about RecTrack transformation?
There's while I don't have a problem people coming in, I mean, we're trying to make this easier for folks, and then there's no way to upload official documents, whether it's a driver's license or something, to verify somebody's. I'm sure there is, because I have to do it when.
That's what we do with the police department for the residential decal. They have to upload that proof and it's verified.
There is a toggle for that we can do that. And there will be some things that we will use that for. Almost everyone that lives on the Isle of Palms has a household right now. It would really be required by the new residents, I guess. And we can change it, but it's just sometimes easier to ask questions about residency and you find out exactly if they do live on the Isle of Palms.
Well, I think if you have a driver's license, if that's something that you could accept, I guess what I would like to see in the future is trying to fold in people who maybe live here but haven't been users of the rec center in the past, and attract more of those people. And that could be a barrier for them if they feel like they have to come in person. If they just want to sign up for one class, it might be a stumbling block. So
I think there's a toggle if you're a guest. So a guest, you won't have to have proof of residency. And then, you have to remember there are a lot of people that are renting here that may not have changed their license over. So that's when some other form of identification will be.
There might be
we'll figure it out.
Option
We're not going to make it difficult for anyone to sign up for anything. So I think it's going to be an easy process, and I think it'll be easier for everyone.
Okay.
There's no perfect world.
All right. Thank you.
Some of the special events, the farmers market, most of you were there on the 21st, and then we had the movie afterwards. That was very successful. Our Ghostly Tide Tales was very successful. And then on Saturday, our Halloween parade and carnival, I thought went off without a hitch. I scared quite a few people, my scary clown costume, which was a lot of fun. And then I also saw on the agenda where the Holiday Street Festival's on there. So I would just highlight that we're going to have it. Okay, good. And then we can discuss it if there's discussion that needs to take place. And then our Santa cookie workshop, we're having 2 sessions again. We're still trying to keep the numbers small in our activities and cookie workshop. Typically we'll have 70 to 80 children. So we've set that into 2 different time slots. We're also brainstorming how to do doggy day at the rec. So we will have some sort of vaccination clinic. We'll have some sort of event. We're not sure exactly what we're doing with that yet.
Okay.
And then the others are grounds maintenance and facilities. And you can see some of the things that they've done and accomplished throughout the month. And if you have any questions, I'll try to answer them.
Questions or comments, feedback?
Either or.
No, all I can say is I'm at the last program we had with the Halloween festival and carnival we had, with it all being outdoors, was super cool. I mean, and weather was phenomenal for it too. And I understand that usually in the past when we had it indoors, it was crowded, it was loud, it was anytime we can do something like that, I think it makes for a better event. We were blessed to have great weather though too. It was better that we had it that weekend instead of this weekend. There's no doubt about it. So
we've been holding down balloons.
Correct. Yeah. So I think that I just think overall it turned out really well. And so
I agree. I think that in the future, as much as we can plan to be outdoors and then have indoors as a plan B, as long as the weather is nice, I think people enjoy it. It's much more, if you can accommodate more people, the loud, it's not loud as it is inside. So I agree. I thought that, and I heard people making that comment at the Halloween carnival.
Well,
I should take advantage of that more.
The parade itself definitely needs to live on. That has been one of the best things that's come out of COVID, honestly, is the Halloween parade. And I think it involves a wider range of age groups that can get involved and decorate their golf carts. And then that lends itself, when we're outside, so many more people can be there comfortably and enjoying. But it is dependent on the weather. And we were in a unique situation where it was on a Saturday, which allows more easily an earlier start. That at least you got daylight savings time isn't working against you at the end of October now. But so I don't know if you can do a 4 o'clock start on a school day if we continue to have Halloween.
We're discussing our options now, how we're going to do it next year. Right. So we're brainstorming how to pull this off next year.
But I would say the feedback that I've gotten was that, again, that was a great event. As with fall October slate of events, that I think the timing was perfect for people who really needed to get reconnected to their neighbors again and to their friends and family. And so thank you for all the
control
work.
Over the October dates. But I will say COVID did us a favor because, I don't know that you are aware, but anytime you have a program, you've had the same program for year after year after year, if you try to change it, people don't like change.
True.
And we would have had a problem changing the way we did it the old way. So COVID actually helped us because I was tired of the old way, but I knew people liked it. And to change it, we would have had some resistance. So COVID actually did us a favor to make us reorganize our October events.
The only thing I heard was the costume contest they'd like to see come back. And I know in this particular environment, the costume contest would have been harder to justify, but in the future.
I miss that contest as well, and we're trying to figure out how to bring that back. So we had the top 3 winners and they're on
Yeah,
Facebook. I
and
can't
it
remember.
lived on with the
I
golf
can't remember who
cart,
they
but
are.
I know that the kids love to,
Yeah,
and adults love to,
show off.
yeah, show their costumes, and it's a motivator. So
It was always a fun event.
yeah. Okay, great. And well, we can talk about the street festival later.
Okay.
Any other questions on the report? Okay. Thank you for all of the hard work that clearly went into the past month of events. So moving on to discuss old business item B. No, item, sorry. Well, we've already covered item A, update on implementation of online registration, unless there's any further questions. Moving on to item B, discussion of suggestions for 2022 Recreation Committee. I actually went ahead and typed some things out. It's for a carryover note. We've already started this conversation. I will give you each copy if you want. And I can send this to Nicole.
We can share.
Okay.
Thank you.
To kind of review what we talked about the last two sessions, and I'll just go through this. And I once again start with a thank you to Rec Center leadership and staff the past 4 years that I have been on this committee. I really appreciate all the work that goes into your programs, and the past 20 months have been a lot of challenges to work through with COVID. So thank you all for the adaptations, the hard work, the stress that has gone into all of that, and for evolving and coming up with, some things that were even better, like the Halloween changes. So in doing that all while we're trying to worry about safety and balancing that with the need for our community to still engage in healthy recreational activities and stay connected socially. So it has been a lot. Thank you for all of that. And so moving forward, we haven't really touched on this, but with COVID, there has been some change and evolution in the way people work and the way our community is going to be in the future. It appears like we probably have more full-time residents. We have children who need to catch up in terms of their developmental and social, and who are more than ever going to need to get back in the swing of activities. We have adults who need to reconnect with friends and neighbors now that we're hopefully feeling more secure in getting together. And I'm more aware, because of the industry that I work in, that the trend, there's a sudden trend to remote work. I mean, we've been doing it during COVID, and now many businesses are saying we're going to keep doing it even past COVID. And so you're going to have more and more people, I think, who are remote workers, who are not going into an office, who are working from their homes, or occasionally going into an office, but who are now looking more for they're closer to home for their recreation, exercise, and sense of community. I'm feeling that myself. Blackbaud just announced that they're going to be a remote first workplace, even though they have a wonderful facility over on Daniel Island. So that means I do believe when people look for a place where they want to live, they're looking, if they're going to be a remote worker, they're going to look for a place like Isle of Palms if they haven't already landed here. So I think you'll see more people like that. And so that I think that's something that we need to think about in terms of providing recreation opportunities. Might actually be like a great window of opportunity to engage more people in our programs. So for example, exercise classes, which I could have done at Blackbaud, but now if I'm working from home, I'm going to be more likely to want to do it at the rec center if I can get motivated.
That's okay.
But other priorities, I hope we can return to Sunday hours at the rec center ASAP. This is something that the council backed and approved. Was, I think, a fairly small budget increase back in 2018. So really hoping that we can get back to that quickly. It maximizes the use of the gym and allows more access to the cardio room. And with the simple flip of the schedule to kids only from 1 to 3, I think we resolve an issue that we were having with adults lingering into kid time. Personally, I'm advocating for, paddle sports access and opportunities, partnering with the IOP Exchange Club, or at least starting those discussions in a more serious way. I think we've had some peripheral discussions, but when I speak to people from the Exchange Club, I get enthusiasm around that. So hoping that that can move forward, along with when we have resolution and at the marina, moving forward with a storage facility would be a dream for kayaks and paddle boards, and other potential partnerships with Charleston County Parks and Recreation or Coastal Expedition for support for training and recreational opportunities that they could help us offer. Community garden, we've touched on this before. The timing hasn't been right, but I just saw a thread on Nextdoor again with a lot of interest from people who would like spontaneously emerged from their own conversations. Something that the garden club could play a supporting role in, and potentially the Green Heart Garden Project, which is school driven, but involves Sullivan's Island and can maybe be a resource. I believe they're community minded. And otherwise, just we've talked about taking a moment for the committee to reassess programs and facilities and needs, reaching out into the community, not just users, but also residents who are not currently engaged in rec programs, to learn what they want and need that would increase their involvement, and taking a closer look at the long-term capital plan to see if it still fits with our priorities. So those would be my things, and then open the door to any conversation as we hand things off to the next group. Yes,
Nicole, this will become part of the minutes so that whoever picks up January could have it as a running start, at least.
Yeah, that's, certainly this is not a mandate for them, but just a hope that they carry things on. Ryan, do you have?
That was good.
Susan, I was looking back at minutes from last time. The only thing that's not on here, and maybe it's in item 4, is an outdoor fitness course, at least looking at the opportunity, but I mean, that could be wrapped up in.
Yeah, under number 4. I do think that is definitely something to think about in terms of the footprint and the possibilities. And, should we ever fall back in terms of COVID, I can see now that that wouldn't have been a bad thing for us to have. The outdoor opportunity to have a workout is would have been nice looking back. But at the time, we were concerned about the spending because we were looking at that at the very beginning of COVID, and we honestly didn't know what the impact was going to be on us financially.
I think the attention at that time was on the pool too, trying to,
and we were
to figure that out. So
True. So, and hopefully within number 4, we take a hard look at both the pool possibility and the possibility of expanding the workout room, which is in the master plans as well. I guess it has been designed. Right. So
as an addition to the facility, yes.
And was previously, I think, postponed in some arguments that we had other priorities that we needed to address, including renovating and remodeling the public safety building, and doing a lot to address the issues at the marina. And we've done a lot of that. there's always there's always going to be competing priorities, but I feel like we have gotten to a place where we can look at those more comfortably.
Okay.
And all right, so there's nothing really to vote on there. Moving on to discussion of return of Sunday recreation center hours.
Yeah.
Where are we with that?
We aren't. Right now, full-time staff have gone on call status because we're challenged getting people work on Saturday mornings. So full-time staff are now placed on call because the one person that we have that can work on Saturday has SATs or basketball practice or something of that nature. So someone full-time has to fill that seat right now. So okay. We're just not there with staffing.
Okay. Hopefully we'll get there soon.
Listen, we're trying, but it's all we can do to hold the fort down now and get everything done that we need to get done. And we still haven't filled that community specialist position.
Okay.
So I hope to offer that today and see if we can get somebody on board.
Which lends to the conversation about staffing. I mean, it sounded like you've been making some progress.
We're trying. It's just, we're just not getting applications. Mm-hmm. And no one is. At our area directors meeting, all the recreation directors all over Charleston County and the Tri-County area, they're having the same issues we're having. Mm-hmm. And we're trying to coordinate all the classes that we can as early as we can, so we don't have to stay open as late at night. Some nights we're there 9 and 10 o'clock because of programming. Mm-hmm. So we're trying to tweak those classes. Okay. We were thinking about having some on weekends, but no one really wants to teach on weekends, nor do they want to go on weekends because that's their family time. So anyway, we're looking at different ways, trying to get creative of how to schedule programs so we have the staffing to make it happen.
It would be great for wintertime if it was possible. But.
I agree.
All right. Anything from you guys? Okay.
No, I think we just keep it on the list and hope the labor market changes at some point in the near future.
Yeah. There's probably a 5-hour conversation we can have about the labor market, but hopefully with at least our salary increase coming around the bend, we'll be able to maybe attract more interest. Okay, moving on to new business. We've already handled item A, discussion of holiday street festival. Item B, are we going back to our normal situation?
Our plans are the holiday street festival be as was in 2019, where we have the arts and crafts vendors. We have the local restaurants have the opportunity to be food vendors on Front Beach that day. We'll have entertainment. We'll light the tree. And we'll have the carnival rides in the parking lot there beside the public safety building.
So the city's portion of it is all outside, essentially.
That's correct. That's correct.
But restaurants do open their doors up for people to, and maybe.
All the Front Beach businesses are given a space in front of their storefront to be on the street with us.
So they can also do
and
that.
Then the restaurants that are not on Front Beach are given the opportunity to be a part of the event and given a space if they wish to.
Super. Yeah. So okay.
Is there for the Front Beach businesses to be out front? There's not a fee associated with that, is there?
No.
Okay.
Island businesses do not have to pay anything to be a part of this event.
Okay.
Great.
And I noticed the VFW wanted to have a spot as well this year.
We've already talked with them.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
Okay, wonderful. Sounds like that's well in hand. Moving on to item C, discussion of beach wheelchair rental program.
So I'll update you all on where we are with this program. We've ordered 3 beach wheelchairs. We're expecting those to arrive in the next couple of weeks. I think I included in your packets the beach wheelchair rental form that folks would be required to fill out. Also, the instructions, these were developed after several meetings with both coordination with Norma Jean and feedback from police and fire. And essentially, these instructions are going to be for the staff of how the first year, at least, of the rental program will work. It's a rental program because people will be able to, they're renting, they're going to be using the city's beach wheelchairs, but there will be no charge. It'll be free for anybody who needs it. They would be available. This is what we have so far. They would be available from 8 to 8. That way folks can take advantage of the afternoon. In the summer, obviously, as you all know, it's pretty light out at 8. Folks would be going to the public safety building to pick them up. They can also submit the form online. The fire department will manage these as part of the medical loan closet. We already have a form and a system associated with that. The reason why we pick public safety building is because we have people 24/7. So when those beach wheelchairs are returned, they have to be rinsed, and a spray, a dry lube material needs to be sprayed onto the beach wheelchair. Again, there's people 24/7. The beach officers, patrol officers are going to be patrolling the beach. So if there's any that have been lost or stolen, they will be able to monitor those as they patrol the beach. One thing that we have thought about, and Norma Jean and I talked about it, is as this program expands, evaluating having 1 or 2 at the rec center for people to be able to have, I guess, 2 options. The only concern or issue or challenge, I guess it would be with the rec center, is that the hours are more limited. So we would have to figure out how and when those beach wheelchairs would be available. Currently, rec center is not open on Sundays. When they do, they're not open 8 to 8. So that would be a limiting factor by having beach wheelchairs over at the rec center, unless we want to. Which is part of the reason why we started at the public safety building, because of the, we would be able to offer greater flexibility and availability of these beach wheelchairs. However, I do think that there's an opportunity to expand so that maybe folks around that area, that end of the island, would still have access to them. But it's the first year. We kind of want to see how it goes with the 3 that we've bought. The other thing I wanted to make sure I mentioned is that if the beach wheelchair is not returned, the city would be charging a credit card on file for the replacement. So we want to make sure that people are able to return them by 8 o'clock that day. The other point that I wanted to make is that the city will not be delivering or picking them up from the beach. Another benefit of having it at the public safety building is that it's very close to the public restrooms, the ADA beach access path that we have along the public restrooms. There's plenty of handicapped parking accessibility. And again, folks don't have to, even though this type of beach wheelchair is, it's easy to how do you call it? Collapse and fold and would fit in a regular trunk of a vehicle. The goal would be that people don't have to do that. They would just, take it and then ride with it to the beach. And at the rec center, it's a little bit farther away from the beach, and that would be another challenge that we'd have to mitigate. But yeah, I mean, I think we're very excited about it. We'll hopefully make a big PR push to make sure people know about it. And I think the goal would certainly be to expand the program in years to come.
Questions?
No, I think it's a great idea. I understand the staffing problems at the rec center. I would like, being how the rec center really is our community center. It is the central area of the island. I'd really like to see some of it pushed down to that area because it's easily parkable. I mean, great. It's easily accessible you know, to the beach and parking, what have you. So I think it just seems like a great place for it to be available as well. So
Desiree, maybe in my head, we've been focused on adult handicapped. Are these wheelchairs, could there be a teenager side? I mean, are they adjustable, or do you have any idea?
They only make them on one dimension. They have a limit of 350 pound user. But according to the company and the communities that have used it, people of all ages are able to use it. Of the 3 that we bought, one has a headrest, which is meant to facilitate people who are paraplegic and, you know, have no mobility. Those that only have challenges, not the whole body, they would be using the other 2. So we're going to have a variety, and we'll see, again, if we need to find another type of beach wheelchair to facilitate younger folks, we'll do it. But this particular, which was the one that came highly recommended for the beach, only comes in one size, but should be able for teenagers and kids to use as well.
Well, to your point, I mean, kind of a trial year. We'll see where it takes us.
We may want the different type, next year, just to have a variety.
Well, and I'm encouraged that the size of them are much smaller than what I think in the past you saw some really large wheels, and those would have taken up a lot more space. So yeah, super that we're doing the program. I agree with Ryan and what you said about expanding to include the rec center for more options for people. Each scenario maybe has some pros and cons for users, but the rec center is not open as, there's that window on Saturdays. The rec center is closed by 5 or 6, as well as on Fridays. So by providing it at the public safety building right now, I think you do have a greater number of hours that you can provide. I'm glad that this can be used for children as well. And so it seems like a good start, and you can adjust and hopefully expand. But there's definitely some advantages. Like, you are very close to closer at the public safety building than I think you are at the rec center to getting on the beach, and then having the restrooms there is probably also an advantage. So, all right. Otherwise, miscellaneous business. Our next meeting date of this group will not be meeting. It will be a new group in January, correct? We will not have a meeting in December as per our usual. No, we'll be celebrating the holidays. So otherwise, thank you all for your commitment and time this year. And do I hear a motion to adjourn?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Grab a donut.
Or take it upstairs.
That is not on my plan.